Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to join you for this important conference on human rights in the maritime sector, an issue that's of enormous importance to the future of the industry and one that's also among my top priorities as a Maritime Minister. So thank you so much for inviting me along today. Human rights and dignity should be a high priority for the maritime sector. Clearly, no business can thrive unless it attracts the right people with the right skills. But to do that, it must offer jobs, conditions and opportunities that are sufficiently appealing to draw the best recruits. For maritime specifically, that means employment, social and welfare rights for those who work at sea are comparable to those on land. And we are working to achieve that. The UK government and our social partners were instrumental in driving through changes in Europe to remove exemptions for seafarers and fishermen from several EU employment directives. So they now have similar levels of protection to the rest of the working population. We are also considering industry recommendations to extend the national minimum wage legislation to all mariners on all vessels working in UK territorial waters. We must also ensure individuals are safe in their working environment. In July this year, I launched the Inaugural Maritime Safety Week, which for the first time brought together all the fantastic work being done across government and industry to keep those who use our seas safe. Too often, safety measures are viewed as red tape, acting as a burden on maritime firms, a view I strongly reject. Safety measures should be seen as an investment in business, providing an environment where workers feel valued and confident so they can give their best, while generating growth for the maritime industry and the wider economy. Improving the employment and social rights of mariners has much the same effect. The UK is a key player in the International Labour Organization and currently chairs its Maritime Special Tripartite Committee. This currently met to consider amendments to the Maritime Labour Convention to provide wage protection to seafarers held captive due to piracy or armed robbery. Additionally, the UK recognises and upholds the fundamental rights of seafarers to access shore leave and transit in a foreign state without a visa. We are also working with the UK fishing industry to implement the International Labour Organisation's work in Fishing Convention 2007 ILO 188 into UK law. Fishing remains the most dangerous industry in the UK, with a rate of fatalities over 100 times higher than the general workforce. Implementation of ILO 188 is an important step in providing a framework for a safer working environment for the fishing industry. In fact, the regulations that will make the UK fully compliant are being laid in Parliament today, a task or legislation for which I hold the responsibility and I am committed to delivering. ILO 188 entitles all commercial fishermen to a range of protections, including written terms and conditions of employment, decent accommodation and food, medical care, regulated working time, repatriation, social protection, and health and safety on board, including provisions to enforce the wearing of personal flotation devices unless measures are in place which eliminate the risk of fishermen falling overboard. It also provides minimum standards relating to recruitment and placement and will make a medical fitness examination and certification mandatory for fishermen in the UK for the first time. These measures will play a significant role in helping achieve our goal of eliminating preventable deaths in the fishing industry by 2027. However, I'm also concerned about reports of migrant workers being mistreated on UK vessels, including allegations of exploitation and modern slavery. It is imperative that we stamp out such practices, ensuring that victims are rescued, placed in a safe location and that full investigations are carried out. Implementing ILO 188 should give better protection to migrant workers on board UK fishing vessels. It will provide clear minimum standards for employers, help improve living and working conditions and, with more regular inspections from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, make it harder to hide the exploitation of vulnerable people. Continuing on modern slavery. The UK is the first country in the world to have dedicated legislation in place to tackle modern slavery. The Modern Slavery Act is rightly recognised internationally as a vital piece of legislation, an important step forward in a collaborative government effort to provide greater protection to seafarers and fishermen in and around our waters. The Prime Minister has personally committed to the eradication of all forms of modern slavery, forced labour and human trafficking. The recent Anti-Slavery Day on the 18th of October saw Number 10 and the Home Office launch a campaign to tackle the problem and to raise awareness and understanding of modern slavery both at home and abroad. The Home Office has also written to businesses to ensure that they are aware of their obligation to provide an annual statement on their work to tackle modern slavery in their supply chains, and ship owners are no exception. This is all a part of reinforcing the UK's global leadership on this crucial issue. If I can now move on to seafarer health, an issue that I believe requires greater attention. We need to look after the mental health and well-being of all people in our industry. Statistics show that 1 in 4 of us suffers from poor mental health, and seafarers are no exception. Indeed, there are statistics which show that the rate of suicide among seafarers is higher than the general population. In recent years, this has led to much better recognition and understanding of the issue, and increased efforts to support those with mental health issues in the workplace and beyond. I welcome the excellent initiatives that are underway in the maritime sector, and to mention just a couple. The National Maritime Occupational Health and Safety Committee has produced guidance for ship owners on recognising, supporting and managing those with mental health issues in the workplace. The Seafarer Hospital Society is supporting the Big White Wall, a web-based support network for those who are feeling distress. My own Department for Transport and the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency are working with the UK Chamber of Shipping, Nautilus International and the National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers, along with partners from the seafarer charities, to develop guidance to improve the well-being of seafarers, both on board and ashore. I hope it will help inform and develop our understanding of the issues both in the UK and internationally for all mariners. Now, if we move on to the future. In the UK, we are preparing our long-term strategy for the maritime sector, titled Maritime 2050, a wide-ranging and sustainable plan to propel UK maritime forward and into the second half of the century, ensuring that we have a thriving maritime sector for future generations. In line with the theme of today's conference, people are at the heart of the Maritime 2050 strategy. As I said at the start of my speech, to maximise the sector's potential, we must attract the best workforce, and that means attracting significantly more women. I know there are already some incredibly talented and inspirational women working in the sector and in critical roles at all levels, but I believe that one of the defining characteristics of a successful maritime sector for the future will be a much higher proportion of women. Presently, it is at a pitiful just a couple of %, and they need to be in positions of influence, more than we have seen up to now, which is why this year I launched the Women in Maritime Charter to support the recruitment, retention and promotion of women in the maritime sector, for which I make no apology. And that returns to my main theme. We are only going to attract skilled and capable people, including more women, if the industry offers excellent employment, health and welfare conditions. That's why today's conference is so important, and why I'm so pleased that so many of you are here so early on this morning. The UK has a proud history of employee protection. We want to ensure that it has a proud future too. And I hope and that we continue to push the agenda both domestically and internationally to ensure all mariners are protected from the threat of modern slavery, forced labour and human trafficking. I am excited about the future of maritime. It is a key sector for our economy, for all economies around the globe. I'm excited about government working with all our partners across the sector to produce a skilled and diverse workforce. Maritime is a great career, and I want to make sure that there are all the right protections in place. I want to help build a bright future for not only the UK maritime sector, but the pride I feel for being the Maritime Minister is a pride that I want to feel that is shared not only by those represented maritime sector, but those working in it as well. Thank you so much. I hope you have a very successful conference.